Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible stories in all of history. We're talking about the transformation of Christianity, how a tiny, persecuted sect on the absolute fringes of the Roman Empire somehow became its official religion. It's a story that, by all logic, should have been over before it even really got started.
And yeah, that's really the heart of it, isn't it? For pretty much any other group, the public execution of its leader would have been it. Game over. So the real story, the one we're going to unpack, is how that very definite ending somehow became a brand new beginning.
All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the 1st century, and we're in Judea, which is occupied territory of the Roman Empire. Now, within the Jewish community, a new reform movement pops up around a charismatic teacher. It's small, it's local, and honestly, it's a total blip on the radar of the mighty Roman Empire.
And then the hammer falls. The leader, this man Jesus, is arrested and executed by crucifixion, a brutal death reserved for rebels and enemies of the state. For his followers, you have to imagine this moment felt like an absolute, catastrophic failure.
And to really get why this was so devastating, we have to understand this word, Messiah. His followers believed he was the Messiah, or in Greek, the Christos, the Redeemer that was prophesied about for ages, the one who would restore Israel. So for them, his execution wasn't just the death of their leader, it was the death of hope itself.
And right here, this is where the story takes a wild, unbelievable turn. Because the movement didn't collapse. Instead, a single, radical belief didn't just save it from disappearing, it actually lit the fuse for its global expansion.
This quote really nails it. The absolute conviction that Jesus had been resurrected from the dead changed the entire game. You see, for his followers, this wasn't just some amazing story. It was proof. It was validation that his mission was real and that his death wasn't a failure. It was a victory.
So, here's the absolute game changer. The resurrection story completely changed the message. It was no longer just about Jewish reform for Jewish people. Suddenly, it was a message of hope and eternal life for all of humanity. And that shift kicked the door wide open for the next key figure to walk right through.
And that brings us to Paul of Tarsus. I mean, you really can't overstate how important this guy was. Think of him as the chief strategist, the lead theologian, and the #1 missionary all rolled into one. He's the one who gave this tiny faith a global ambition.
And what a backstory. Paul wasn't just some early convert, he was originally a fierce persecutor of this new movement. But after this dramatic conversion experience, he does a complete 180 and becomes its most passionate advocate, traveling thousands of miles to set up these little Christian communities in major cities all across the Roman world.
But where Paul was truly a genius was in the theology. He argued that salvation was open to everyone, including non-Jews or Gentiles. And here's the crucial part. They didn't have to become Jewish first. No more strict dietary laws, no circumcision. All you needed was faith. Now just imagine you're living in this huge, impersonal empire, and this message comes along offering a personal relationship with God and a welcoming community. That was revolutionary.
So, to put it simply, Paul took a religion that was tied to a specific ethnic group and had high barriers to entry, and he turned it into a universal faith with just one super accessible requirement. He basically changed the target audience from just one people to all people. He was offering a spiritual home to anyone and everyone in the empire who was looking for something more.
Now, as you can imagine, this universal message starts spreading like wildfire. But that kind of explosive growth inside the very structured Roman Empire, well, that was definitely going to ruffle some feathers. For the next few centuries, being a Christian could literally get you killed. But the journey from the shadows to the halls of power had already begun.
So even though it was an outlawed religion, the message just stuck. It spread not through armies or conquest, but through social networks, from neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend. It attracted people from every walk of life, drawn in by the promise of salvation and a community that actually took care of its poor and sick. And here's the craziest part. Even when the Romans cracked down hard, the movement just kept on growing.
And just look at how fast things changed. Around 300 CE, the persecutions are at their absolute worst. Just 12 years later, the Roman emperor himself, Constantine, converts. He saw this organized, fast-growing faith as a potential social glue to help hold his fragmenting empire together. The very next year, it's legalized. And then, in less than a single lifetime, it becomes the official state religion. The reversal is just stunning.
Okay, so being the official religion of the empire is great, but it also created a brand new problem.
You see, if this was going to be the faith for the entire empire, you couldn't have people in one city believing one thing and people in another believing something totally different. You needed one unified, standard set of beliefs.
So enter Emperor Constantine again. He calls together this massive meeting, the Council of Nicaea. And this is a huge moment in history. It's where political power and religious authority sit down at the same table to basically hammer out the official rule book for the faith. They were going to decide once and for all what it meant to be a Christian.
And this is what they came up with, the core beliefs that would define mainstream Christianity for the next 2,000 years. We're talking about huge concepts like the Trinity, the idea that God became human in Jesus, and of course, they doubled down on those foundational beliefs in the resurrection and universal salvation. All of this was now official imperial doctrine.
So let's just pause and think about that for a second. In less than 400 years, a movement that started with an executed leader and a few scared followers in a remote province became the state religion of the most powerful empire in the world. It is, without a doubt, one of the most unlikely and consequential stories in all of human history.
And that leaves us with one final, massive question to think about. The legacy of this improbable rise is all around us, whether you're religious or not. It's in our laws, our art, our philosophy, our politics. Its incredible journey from the margins to the center of power didn't just define an era, it fundamentally shaped the world that you and I are living in today.